Welcome back to Dragon in a Pot. We're continuing our series, The Butcher, the Baker, the Candlestick Maker. Today we'll be covering merchants and their shops. First, we want to cover what is a merchant. Well, usually the easiest differentiation is defining what role do they fulfill in society and in that particular shop. It could be the shop owner themselves, who, due to either lack of assistance or their assistants having the day off, are running the store themselves. It could be a shop hand or apprentice that is assisting the shop owner. It could be a caravan leader who is the face and voice of the caravan during their times of transactions. It could be the craftsman who is selling his own handmade wares. Okay, now that we know what a merchant is, or what role they're playing in your particular encounter, next we want to cover what are they selling. By defining this, I've found in my games, it allows me to specify with the role-playing and with the players and give them a little more detailed interaction. Starting out, a butcher, wonderful necessity for any adventuring group and a must-have in any city or town. If there is any livestock, it would probably be fresh meats, ranging from bacon to sides of pork. It could be geese, chicken, the list goes on. In most long-distance travels, you were probably looking at something a little more shelf-stable, which would have been sausages and salted pork. You could also do salted beef, but it was usually more expensive because bulls, or more often referred to as oxen, was the predominant subspecies historically. They were often used as beasts of burden while you were traveling or on the farm. You also have your baker. Now, everybody knows that a baker, cookies, cakes, fresh breads, wonderful to have. When you're looking at traveling, which most adventurers are, you want something a little sturdier than your standard loaf of bread that in an adventurer's backpack, let's be honest, that's going to end up getting squashed, mashed. You're going to end up eating paste by the time you're done. The historical solution to this was what was referred to as hardtack. A biscuit that was usually double cooked or flatbread baked for a longer period of time with usually a higher nutritional value, that due to its rigidity, there are stories of sailors that would break their teeth on them. The common solution was to soak it underneath the stew that they were eating, or to add water to it in the stew and turn it into more of a dumpling while the stew was cooking. Then you have your chandler. These are your traditional candlestick makers or light providers in the town. This is where we also get the word chandelier. It's from the term chandler, which the chandler provided candles, rush lights, which were more of an indoor light source. Basically, it was a reed soaked in wax, which allowed it to burn fairly reliably and effectively, but it blew out very easily, much like a candle does if left unattended. They also provided lamps, lanterns, torches even. If you're in a more fantasy-based role play game, you'd probably be looking at your Everburn torches, and tinder twigs would be provided by the chandler as well. Also, likely they would provide light phylacteries or other more exaggerated, expensive light sources provided by wizards and other such fantasy game setting, dependent on how readily available magic is. You have your bathhouses. I know my adventurers appreciate the detail, although they don't always take advantage of it, of being able to say, I'm going to go here and clean myself up because I feel gross. You'd be amazed how readily players will grasp upon that detail in order to flare their role-playing exercise their role-playing muscles, and it's also a wonderful place to hold meetings that aren't well advised for holding in a more public space, such as a tavern or public house. And you can have it dependent on your setting. You can have them divided by sexes, unisex. Historically, there were both. You could have it where private bathing tubs were provided with screens, or you could have it where it's wide open and it's just one big swimming pool that everybody bathes in together. You could have a blacksmith. Of course, you have to have somebody to help maintain your weapons and equipment, and also repair any wagons or other traveling necessities. And you could have them interacting again with either the blacksmith himself or an apprentice or shop hand while he's at the forge himself, or vice versa. You could also have an apothecary, or I encourage having an apothecary, providing most of your potions and poultices. Historically, the apothecary provided a role similar to what we would currently think of as a pharmacy, providing medicines and prescriptions to those in the town that don't necessarily need to go to a full surgeon for their healthcare needs. You could also, depending on setting, have them attached to either a wizarding school, or you could have them adjacent to a clerical center of magical healers to provide a less expensive or more mundane method of healing. You have your tavern, of course, where many adventures start. Them meeting in the tavern, seeing a bounty posted on the door, or meeting thanks to a secretive letter sent by someone trying to gather a group together for the first time. Now that we have determined what type of merchant we're going to, it's usually helpful to describe what does their shop look like. Are they running off the back of a wagon, as would be the case with a traveling merchant and caravan leader? Are they parked just outside of a city in a tent or pavilion-style stall? Do they have a traditional storefront? Are they running outside? Are they running their business out of a tower, as would be the case with many wizarding goods? And of course, you always have the odd merchant who's traveling with little more than a backpack full of highly priced potions and magical items, or even gemstones if it's an artisan. And then you have the finishing details, starting with who or what is the merchant? Is he a human, male or female? Is it an elf, a halfling, a gnome? Could it be a fairy? Maybe a goblin? Or if you really want to go off the sideboard, maybe you're on a coastal town and the stall is being run by an octopus. There's endless options of creatures and scenarios you could run. If you're dealing with sci-fi, this could range as far as, again, the octopus being a space octopus who maybe they developed on a planet that was where it made sense to have the 8 legs to adapt. But it could be an alien. It's really up to you. But defining what their race setting appropriately can give you another starting point into how will the players interact with them. And I guarantee from experience that the players appreciate just that little extra flavor that can be added for telling the story, especially if they're a variant that dislikes the creatures that they're talking to. I've had numerous situations where I've had an elf and a dwarf nearly come to blows because of the racial disagreements when properly roleplayed. But that's up to you. Then, lastly, you always want to keep in mind defining traits of the merchant that you're dealing with. Do they have any scars? Maybe a limp from an old injury? Are they grumpy, as is the case with many bartenders? I run several scenarios where a very grumpy tavern owner sees the adventurers come in and literally tells them, "Leave your weapons by the door! How many times do I have to tell you?" Whether that's their first time coming into the tavern or not, I can guarantee if he's had to tell adventurers time and time and time again, he is not keeping track of who he's told. Maybe they're friendly. Are they dealing with, again, maybe the barista or barmaid, depending on setting, named accordingly. Maybe she's coming up and, "Why, hello, darling. What can I get you today?" It really does set a tone for the encounter and role play just by defining the attitude. Maybe they have a distinctive pet. Historically, how many tropes are there of pirates with the parrot on the shoulder that, again, just sets a distinctive tone that the players can run with. I will say one thing though, be careful with this. I have had it go sideways where the players become more obsessed with any pet or side detail and completely lose track of what they were doing, and it's an extra 20 minutes on the campaign or the adventure in play. So if you're on a time limit, be careful what you add. Their voice. Is there anything distinctive about it? Is it high pitch, low pitch? Maybe they have a slur, or maybe it's stuttery, gravelly, something that you can add that way. Do they have an accent? Then you have, is their weight abnormal? Are they oddly skinny for the area, or are they overweight? This often goes with being grouchy or friendly. Maybe they're a penny pincher. And then, of course, you have their height. Are they tall, short, stout, scrawny? And again, I'll add a few more that I'm not going to write down. You can make them, like I said, you can have it where they're a penny pincher and are going to look for absolutely the best deal that they possibly can. Or are they more willing to haggle and work out with the players on coming to a agreeable pricing? I hope that you've enjoyed this video and hope that I've given you materials that you can add to deepen your storytelling in your worlds. And just a reminder, please subscribe to the channel. It really does make a difference. And I look forward to seeing you soon on my next video. In the meantime, this is Dragon in a Pot, signing off.